Good evening. I hereby call to order the July 25th, 2018 meeting of the Gaithersburg Historic District Commission. May I have a roll call, please, starting on my far left?
Frank Johnson.
Gregory Mann. Robert Love.
Mary Jo LaFrance.
Dean Ventola.
John Roddy.
Chris Kurtz.
Chris Berger.
Okay, Robert Love, Commissioner Love, is a full acting commissioner tonight, and we have a quorum. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes, and does anybody have any thoughts or concerns with them?
Yes and no.
Okay. Commissioner Kurtz, please let us know.
I reviewed them and have no questions. Those were your two questions.
Okay, very good. All righty. Thank you very much. I do have one issue that I'd like you to look at, Chris, if you
Sure.
can. When I was looking at the minutes on page 4, it was the motion for the demo.
Mhm.
The first one, it's the only one on page 4, said the results failed 3-2. But I think the motion was to direct the city manager to temporarily withhold the issuance of the demo permit, which I think therefore it passed. So if that's correct, please adjust it. If it's not, leave it as is.
Okay, I'll look into that.
All right. Okay, next on our agenda, we have Historic Area Work Permits Review, HIST 7977-2018, removal of a tree measuring 50 inches over on 106 Chestnut Tree. Chestnut, could we have a review from staff?
Yes.
Do you want to check for conflicts?
Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is check for conflicts for anything that we're going to hear tonight. Obviously, this is the only one.
I would just like to disclose that we are neighbors and live in the same historic district, although I believe I can fairly judge this case.
Very good. All right. Also, I skipped ahead. Let me review the preliminary statement, which is as follows. This commission is empowered to meet and act under Article 12 of the City Code of Gaithersburg. The technical qualifications of the staff of this commission and the members of this commission are on file with the City of Gaithersburg, are available on request to any applicant, and are hereby made a part of the legal record of each and every application heard today. Each application heard today is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris, for helping me out.
The subject property includes a two-story frame vernacular style residence that was constructed in 2005. 106 Chestnut is zoned R90, medium density residential, and is non-contributing to the Chestnut Meme Historic District. The tree is located in the rear yard on the boundary with 104 Chestnut Street. So this is the subject tree here, and next door is 104, and we're looking at 106. The applicants have been advised by their arborist to remove a white oak on the property because of the presence of an approximately 15-foot tall crack and cavity that begins at the base of the tree. And here's a picture of the residence. And here's a picture of the tree. This is the subject tree. The trunk has a diameter at breast height of approximately 50 inches. The building in the background is the garage at 104 Chestnut Street, so it's right on the property line. And here is a closer view of the crack and the cavity in the tree. So it starts at the base of the tree and extends up approximately 15 feet. And here we have environmental planner Andrew Benjamin, who inspected the tree. He's a licensed arborist, and he wrote in the staff report about his concern for that cavity and the damage to the buttress roots, that the tree was not he noted, was not working to heal its wound, including the roots over here and the cavity in the middle. And he agreed with the applicant's arborist that the tree is at risk of falling. The Chestnut Meme Historic District guidelines note the following in regard to trees on page 13. Removal of live trees 2 inches in caliper and larger require a permit. Removal of a tree may require a replacement tree of 2 1/2 inches caliper, which, if advisable, should be planted close to the original location. This tree was recorded in the 1999 tree inventory for the Gaithersburg Historic District, so staff included a condition requesting that a replacement tree 2.5 inches in diameter be planted in its place, and also note that the applicants intend to have the stump ground down to grade. And I believe the applicants, John Henry and Kiana Scott, are here. If you have any questions, you can please come to the podium and state your name for the record.
Hello, everybody. I'm John Henry Scott.
And I'm Kiana Scott.
Welcome. If you like, you can say your thoughts on why this tree needs to be removed, but I can say that the photographs and the documentation do have plenty of weight and evidence on your behalf.
The tree has been, I think, sick for a long time, and our preference was to save the tree if possible. And we talked with our arborist a while ago about the small crack that had formed. So we've been kind of tracking the progress of this tree. But Andrew Walker from Care of Trees feels that it's a problem now and that it's in fact a safety hazard. So we're sad to see the tree go, but we'd be glad to replant something 2.5 inches in caliper diameter, something native to Maryland in that spot.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on behalf of the application or against it? Okay, seeing no one. I guess then we can start up here. We can start with you, Chairman, Commissioner Kurtz.
Former chairman. No, it's sad, and it does present a hazard, and so time to go.
Okay, Mr. Roddy?
It has an obvious pronounced lean, and it does have a equally obvious weight imbalance. The integrity of the trunk seems to be gone. I certainly wouldn't want to go against the expertise of the arborist, and it's a safety hazard, unfortunately, but it has to go.
I'm in full agreement. The split in the tree itself, as well as the lean, which is pretty significant, tells me this tree is on its way down. I think we need to take it down before nature does it. And that's Mary
Agreed.
Jo?
Agreed.
Yeah,
Robert?
compared to what we saw last month and what we saw in our report, what can happen when they do go down can cause great damage. So this is a safety hazard, and I think it needs to come down.
Okay. All right. We're open for, an open forum here, but I think no one really has anything further to say on it. And if not, I'm open to a motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Okay, I move that the Historic District Commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony and the staff report findings and recommendation, grant historic area work permit 7977-2018, removal of a tree measuring 50 inches in diameter, finding it to be in compliance with City Code 24-227.2, with the one condition that the applicant shall plant a replacement tree within 6 months of its removal.
May I offer a suggestion to add a second requirement, and that is to ground down to grade? I know the applicant said he's going to.
I would be in agreement with that.
I'm so sorry. Please help me. Oh, we already asked. Thank you. Thanks for the help. Is that acceptable to everybody, to add that as a second condition?
It's a great
Can I
idea.
inquire why you would make that
Yes,
a requirement?
yes. There's a photo in here, Chris, if you're able to put it up, from the street front. You can see the tree from the street, and there
All
it
right.
is. And the stumps look like they're just not very becoming on a historic area.
All right, now I understand. Okay.
Thank you. All righty. Is everybody okay on that second,
I
second
would second
requirement?
the motion as it was made,
Okay,
As amended.
very good.
as amended.
All right, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's 5-0. Okay, very good. Next then, let's see here. Okay, discussion of topics. The impact review areas, and That is my friend Mary Jo. What I'd like to do tonight is have you, Mary Jo, if this is acceptable to you, make a brief statement and relay some information on your thoughts on this, as well as the articles that you asked us to review. And then what I want to do then is start, I guess, with Robert, and then go down the line and then come back to you for your final thoughts.
Before we do that, can I just go over some information and just a review of last time?
Oh, yes, please do.
Yes, please.
So as you know, this is a continuation from last month, and staff seeks guidance on which particular properties the HDC would like to pursue for impact review area status. Again, impact review areas are properties that adjoin designated historic properties and would allow the HDC to essentially provide a courtesy review on concept and amendment to site plans that go before the Planning Commission for final review. And none are in place now, and to go into effect, the mayor and city council would need to approve by resolution. So last month, I showed you maps of the properties that adjoin the city's historic resources. I'll briefly go through them again. I added more information to the maps that I sent out as part of the packet. Now we have courtesy review areas. The existing courtesy review areas are in yellow, so you can see that a number of these properties that are potential impact review areas already fall within courtesy review areas. So up here at the top of the screen, that's Realty Park. Down here is Old Town. This is Chestnut Mean.
Chris, before you go too far ahead,
Sure.
obviously the red are outlined are the potential impact review areas.
Yep.
The yellow, as you already mentioned, are the current courtesy review areas. What are the blue grid and what are the green grid areas?
Those are whether contributing. Green in this instance is individually designated, and there's some confusion there because this property is in the Brooks Russell Walker Historic District, but before it was in the district, it was individually designated. So that's kind of a carryover of before it was designated. But blue means that, cross-hatching means that it's contributing to the historic district. White means that it's non-contributing. Green means individually designated. Again, 11 Russell is both individually designated and contributing to the Brooks Russell Walker Historic District, so that's kind of an anomaly.
Thank you very much. Please continue.
And as I said, Chestnut Mean, here's the Crown Farm. And we have the Kentlands. And this is around the City Hall area. As you can see, City Hall is covered already, so we're in that building now. Across the street at 20 South Summit, the Y site, the funeral home at 124 East Diamond, the Growlers building, and the B&O Railroad Station. They are yellow as well. That means they're listed on the National Register in addition to being locally designated. And this is the Observatory Heights area. Over here is the observatory. And so I also provided a table that lists all those adjoining properties that we just saw. There are 78 in all, 33 of which are already in courtesy review areas, and those are indicated in yellow, the properties that are in courtesy review areas. So we have the adjoining historic property, the address of the particular potential impact review area, its zone, what it's used for right now, and again, if it's in a courtesy review area or not. And here's the second part of that table. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
All righty. All right, Mary Jo.
Okay, so I think what Chris has said is most important right now for the city staff is to know where we need these boundaries, and also that it would be duplicate if we were to lay something over the courtesy review area as well. I tried to look for data, and although we are calling it an impact review area, other places are calling it a buffer zone. And I'm still working on getting some more information from the National Historic Trust. They've been having a problem with their website, but I do have a small amount of information in front of me that has several places I received it from were the National Trust for Historic Preservation, National Alliance for Preservation of Commissions, Google, and the MHADC handbook. So we need to decide at some point, it does not have to be tonight, where we think these boundaries are appropriate, how large should they be? Should we increase the notification area of new construction, for instance? What is, Chris, I'm sorry, I meant to ask you before, what is the city code for notification currently?
200 feet?
That's what I thought. All right, so it's now 200 feet notification. That may not be enough. 200 feet from my house, let's say. But what if it's a house down the street from me and then that 200 they don't fit into? So this is why these boundaries will be important for us to discuss and decide how we'd like to implement them. The other thing I thought was important is, since it's already mentioned in the city code, an impact review area, I think it's only fair to new applicants that if we're going to continue to have transparency in our rules, that something like this should have some kind of structure so that it's not a surprise later on down the road for applicants, because I don't believe that's fair. And let's see. And now, one other question I have for you, Chris.
Mhm.
You know that I'm very interested in finding out if it's possible that we can change the ordinance for signage in and around historic districts to mirror old towns. Is that also included with this buffer area we're discussing tonight, or is that a different subject, and how do we approach that?
I think our interpretation of the impact review areas is that only as part of a site plan review, meaning a review that would go to planning commission, would signs and fences and things like that be under the impact review for the HDC. So that if they wanted to change their sign, absent an amendment to final site plan, that wouldn't fall under the review of the HDC.
And how can we change it so the ordinance is included for historic districts and areas?
I would say we would need to establish a...
Yeah, you're speaking now of a text amendment to actually the city code. Currently, we have a few requirements. We have to take signs to the planning commission, but mostly they're reviewed by staff as a permit, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand the current system isn't working for the surrounding areas to historic districts, because I've taken pictures of that and also submitted a slideshow last year.
I mean, we do have specific guidelines for Old Town,
Yeah,
which, if that's what you're referencing, I guess, is
I
what,
am.
okay.
and I'd like to see those same signage guidelines expanded to include the historic districts and the impact.
That would be
areas of that.
difficult because the Old Town is actually codified by the boundary.
Okay, we'll work on that later. We'll do what we need to do tonight so I can understand in a little bit more detail how that might work. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
That's it? Okay, all right. Let's start with you, Robert.
First, I appreciate all the information you sent us, Mary Jo, and all the information. It was a lot. I had some concerns with this a bit. So last time I think, and I asked staff, I said so someone who currently resides by a historic, designated area, they don't have, you said it would add at least a month to their application if they had to come through us also, along with planning commission?
Yeah, it depends kind of on the schedule, when it comes in, when the commission meets, and when the planning commission meets. Typically, the planning commission meets twice a month, the first and the third Wednesday of that month.
Okay.
And the commission obviously meets the fourth Wednesday of the month. So again, depending on what was discussed by the commission in their courtesy review and the timing for the commission's next meeting, planning commission's next meeting, you could look at a month added on to the process.
Okay.
There's time leading up and then time for revisions as well after the meeting, depending on what requests the HDC makes. So it's hard to put a time on it because it adds time at the beginning and it could add time after review as well.
Okay. So so you said this has to go through the city council and everything. Will the owners have a say as far as, or is it going to be, I know sometimes when you want to make a change like this, you have to get X amount percentage of people being impacted to vote yes or no on it in certain cases. Is this just going to be something that if city council, obviously they'll have a chance to bring it before through the various commissions, but are they gonna have an opportunity, like, if they say, oh, it's a go, then all of a sudden, you're within that zone and you have to be reviewed?
That would be correct. Yeah, they
Yeah.
wouldn't individually vote. The property owners wouldn't individually vote whether or not they want this. It would be up to the mayor and city council.
Yeah, it's currently already in the code, so it's already codified that the council can create these zones,
They can't create.
but it has to be done by resolution. So it would still be done through, obviously, a public hearing.
Yeah.
Or a public meeting.
And they're notified, the
Yeah.
property owners are notified.
I knew that they'd be, I
Okay.
figured they'd be notified on that. I guess my issue is if someone bought a property that wasn't within the historic area, maybe they did that strategically, maybe that was their decision, so they wouldn't have to go through the extra hurdles in order to, in order to get a certain permit or do certain work with that. That's something for some reason I haven't been able to let go of. Maybe working in government, I know how I hear about the speed of government at all times, and adding to that, I just think it would have to, I wish it would be something where we put in as if, okay, maybe when they sell the property, then it comes into it, or if they are in agreement of it to that effect. But I think just to kind of plant that on them, that all of a sudden you have to go this extra hurdle, I don't think that's fair, because if they may have strategically bought their house a certain way to not, be considered in that. So those are my concerns right now with it.
That's a very good suggestion. If they sell the house, then the new purchaser is notified and making a purchase based on that. All righty, John, would you like to go next?
I share Commissioner Love's concern. I also would say that because you're going to be dealing with a varied number of uses further out you go from the targeted property, you're going to have a sort of a sliding scale of importance that you have to attach to many considerations. And while this is complex, I think it's worth going through, but we do have to be very sensitive to how these things do vary. Again, location, location, location.
Okay.
So that's basically my concern.
All right, Chris?
It's Commissioner Kurtz. And I agree with Commissioner Love and Vice Chair Roddy. It's complex. The question that I have for staff is this 200-foot notice to anybody line of sight 200 feet. That simply gives them notice that there is an activity for a given property in line of sight, that there will be a hearing, and I guess at that point they could go to the city website, look up what the issue is, come to the meeting, et cetera, and speak. And so that's what that provides. And so, Mary Jo, what you're proposing, I think, is, call it a buffer zone or whatever, the additional stricture on something, and let's assume arbitrarily it's 200 feet. This would then obligate a courtesy review. I don't know. I honestly don't know. What hits me most is maybe to make more robust the 200-foot notice, maybe extend that, make sure that any neighbor, be it you or any of us or anyone, has a way to be more well-informed or more proactive or something. That's the thing that hits me as less cumbersome and yet more problem-solving specific. And the one that comes to my mind is the thing you did, and I too want to salute you for this is a really serious issue. And I remember vividly last year, I believe, when you were showing this horrible sign that was, and it seems to me this is largely going to be a point instant visual thing. So that's I think where I can see try to attack the problem rather than us trying to figure out a patchwork, appropriate patchwork in the blanket. So that's all I've got so far, and thank you. I did read everything you attached except the one that required me to fill out a quiz or something.
Oh,
You
for goodness
just could
sake,
have
I'm
clicked that
sorry, I
off.
don't know
If you
what that
clicked it
was.
off, you could have gotten access
Oh,
to
okay.
it.
You clicked it off?
Yeah, if you click off the,
Hit the X or something.
yeah, you just exit.
Anyway,
do the whole thing.
I did my best. But I think it is a serious problem that, I think the most pinpoint way I can see to do it is to somehow reinforce or strengthen that current notice function. And that lets any individual say, hey, wait a minute, this is, I just bought this house and this is terrible. Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, I'll go next and let you go last. Chris, we have 78 potential impact review areas, 33 are redundant, so 45 are new. How many total areas do we have under our jurisdiction right now?
I would say approximately 115
Okay,
contributing, non-contributing, and individually designated.
okay, so we're gonna increase it by almost like 50%. Okay, then my real question really is, I know our impact review areas, we're saying that it's gonna be a courtesy review. What types of things, and I guess maybe we could discuss it, but I'd like to start with you to help guide us. What type of things are we going to be able to review? Like, I'll just give you an example, colors off the table, so we're not gonna touch that. But tree removal, is that something that we would have as part of it? So that would not be.
Not if it's just one tree,
Okay.
no. If
So-
it's part of a whole amendment to final site plan and
Okay.
trees being taken down because the building expanding, yes.
Okay, existing fences,
No,
okay, signage,
no,
okay, we keep them going. Additions to a project?
depending on the size.
Roughly, what's the size that?
More than
clicks it?
50% of the existing footprint or
Okay.
addition of a second story.
Okay, all right, and then demolition,
Oh, if it's more than 50 years old.
okay, and then what other things would we be reviewing? So right now, I only have an addition and a demolition that's 50 years old, so what other types of things would we be reviewing as our
I can
courtesy
pull up
review?
what falls under courtesy reviews. It's basically, Greg, can you think
Yeah,
of
it's
anything
essentially the
else?
same things you guys review now under your courtesy review when things go to the planning commission.
But I thought
So
we
new,
used
new,
signage.
new construction, additions, potentially,
Mhm.
and I mean, those are really kind of usually it. I mean,
Okay,
Expanded parking areas?
yeah, I mean, if there's an opportunity, if there's a situation, let's say, where it's a commercial property and we've approved architectural elevations, possibly those as well, if they need to go to the planning commission.
okay. Well, don't we usually get those anyway? So
Depending on if
if
it's in a courtesy review.
okay,
Right.
so
Yeah.
architectural elevations, okay, good, all right,
This is the handbook for
okay. And that's architectural elevations for commercial, or are we also saying for residential as well?
If you do, if.
Typically not residential, because residential, we can do it at staff level.
Okay, all right. That answers all my questions. Thank you. All right, Mary Jo, you
Okay,
get to go
so
next.
to
And
help
last.
with a little bit of clarification, the reason why we're looking at this also is not what an individual property owner is going to do with one building. We're also looking at the possibility of entire neighborhoods coming up around historic districts and how the traffic will affect them, how the wear and tear, how close it butts up to the neighborhood. So I pulled from my 1998 Historic District Commissioner's Handbook. Ask for creation of buffer zones deep enough to screen new development even in winter. And this, apologize I didn't get a chance to copy it and add it to the record, but as you can see, there is still some more data, there's still more to come in, we still have probably more to talk about. But we're also should consider our responsibility in protecting the districts from, could be mass development. And those are the kinds of things that we can wait and then tell the applicant when they come forward, oh, well, we're gonna be making a buffer zone around that now.
Okay,
Or we could put something in the city code so that they're not surprised by this. It looks to me like off and on throughout the different districts that handle historic properties through my research that these buffer zones do come up at time of application. So we need to decide for ourselves, do we want to do something more official now? So there's something permanent in the record, or do we want to wait and do it on a case-by-case basis?
Can I say something?
Yeah, let's do open discussion now, so anybody
Yeah.
can just jump right in.
Okay. I guess my question would that be our responsibility, or isn't that the responsibility of the planners too, when those things come in, to make sure that they fit, the area and whatnot? That's what I would think.
Yeah, well, typically when we get new reviews, and again, this is not something that comes before the Historic District Commission, but when we review new site plans, especially large developments, we do review traffic impacts and how those affect the surrounding neighborhoods.
Well, this was one of the few places where I could actually find a reference to a buffer zone, so that was my example. But yes, but there's good reason why to have it. That's my point, really.
And I think it's important to also add that we currently do have buffer zones. Now, there is a difference between a buffer zone and an impact or a courtesy review area or an impact review area, I think in this
Yeah.
case. So I just want to make that clear.
Actually, describe those two differences for us.
Well, a buffer zone typically is a zone that separates two uses that may not be compatible to each other.
For example,
Residential and commercial, sorry, Chris.
on the screen right now, I have a map of Chestnut Meme in 101 Chestnut, 9 Meme, 5 Meme, and 100 West Diamond. Those are all residential buffer zone properties. So these four right here.
And if you look across from that, those properties across the street are industrial zoned. And that's why you have a buffer zone in that location.
And he's referencing these properties north of Meme at the northeast corner of Chestnut and Meme.
What is the buffer then doing? Help me out. What is the benefit of that? That is that to say that you would like to see residential move towards, well, certainly to stop the industrial from encroaching, but is that saying that those residential areas shouldn't be touched because they do create a wall?
It's based off intensity of uses. So it's basically a median between the residential use, which is obviously a low intensity, and the industrial use, which is a higher intensity.
Well, I understand that, but my question is that something that the city is saying is very important to maintain, that buffer, that residential buffer in that particular area, in order to create a wall to help block the view of the industrial area?
It's a wall, or more to help kind of things blend, so you don't just have hard edges between competing again in uses that may conflict with each other.
Right.
Okay.
Which is sort of what I was saying about the signs now are currently conflicting with what.
Oh, sure, no, I understand
Yeah,
that. Okay. Okay.
So these four properties,
Right, I mean, that's really my question, because those are residential, right?
no, they
Okay,
are
those
office.
are, they're office, now I
Yes.
understand. Okay, that makes a lot of
So it
sense.
goes from
It's the
R90
transition, yeah,
residential,
that makes perfect sense to me.
office to
I get it.
industrial.
Okay, very good. I like that. So, okay. A very good concept, so.
And I guess in final, I'd just like to say that even if we were to decide boundaries, we could also not make it official until some months later if we wanted to as well. Excuse me.
Oh, definitely. Mary Jo warned us ahead of time.
Sorry.
She's not feeling too well, and she's a trooper by being here, so thank you.
You really have to give up those cigars.
All right. So does anybody have any other thoughts they want to throw in before I guess we move on? No? Okay, all righty.
We may
Thank you.
need to revisit this.
Well, we are. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that I'd like to take as long as you think it needs, and I think you still have a tremendous amount of research. And to be honest with you, when I read through the 4 articles that you asked us to read, they're at state level. At least 2 of them were at state level.
And some of what I've been
And
reading
so-
is national as well.
Right, but we can't control
Yeah.
national, but we can control, not control the state, but we can touch on to the state.
Yeah.
So my guess is you probably want to or probably will be looking at the state to see what they already have in place as the laws that will allow you to propose what we're currently doing. Because we don't want to go to the State House and create a new law. We just want to find out what's in use.
Exactly.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Congratulations, you did a great job. All right, next then is from staff.
We have a few things. I was lucky enough to attend the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions biannual conference last week in Des Moines, Iowa. So the National Trust has a conference every year, and that conference kind of attempts to appeal to a broad range of preservationists. But this conference deals more with what we do as staff and commissioners. So there was a number of good sessions, but there was one in particular that I wanted to bring your attention to. The speaker was named Bob Yap. I don't know if anyone's familiar with him. He has overseen the restoration and rehab of more than 150 buildings in his life, and he is a preservation purist. He noted that he used to host his own show on PBS, but he quit because they wanted him to use products that he didn't believe in.
Oh,
wow.
How
So
about
he
that?
just quit.
Wow.
The title of the session was Removing the Vinyl Sticker Historic Preservation Cost Calculator. So we all know that repairing a historical feature made out of a natural material like wood or brick is usually cheaper in the long run than synthetic material, but consumers sometimes are inclined to choose the cheapest upfront costs. So for a community in Kansas, he created a cost comparison calculator that shows to property owners just how much it would cost to repair and retain a historic feature versus replacement over the long run. So I pulled up what he did for that community in Kansas just to show you what it is. So it's an Excel spreadsheet, and he gives some overviews on, this is pertaining to windows. So what you do is you can plug in a window sizes. These are the sizes that came already with the spreadsheet. So 19 by 40. So it shows 19 by 40 window width inches. Here's repair. Here's replacement. Here's how much it costs to repair the existing window, and then how much it would cost over a 50-year lifespan each year to maintain. A tune-up would be less intensive work than completely restoring. And then he goes into aluminum or vinyl clad windows, clad with wood and replaced with no cladding. So he has all these things that he calculates in. He's, like I said, he's worked on 150 buildings, so he has a lot of access to labor rates in particular areas, material costs, so he has it pertain to each particular region. He did more than windows. Here's storm windows, wooden windows with storms, casement windows, more on casements, siding he did, eaves, painting. So all this information is available for this community. When someone comes in and say, I want to, change so-and-so feature, well, here's how much it's going to cost you up front, here's how much it's going to cost you over the long run. So at least one other community has hired him to implement this feature. I don't know if Gaithersburg can necessarily afford the cost of this, but maybe it's something at the statewide level that maybe one of the state preservation nonprofits can afford a grant for this that we can all use. So I thought I would bring that to your attention because it's a
that's
very
really good.
interesting calculator, and he did it for commercial buildings as well. This is all residential in this spreadsheet, and I can share the link with you if you want to play around with it and see what he did, but it's very, very in-depth. The other item I have is the reminder that the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Old Town Plaza is tomorrow at 11:45. Hopefully it's not raining then,
Oh,
so all of you are encouraged and welcome to attend.
Expect rain.
Yes.
I know.
All righty. Next then, any, from the commission, anybody wants to?
Ask a question?
Sure.
What price range would it be in? Or could we just crosswalk from something he's got to the common labor rates here, et cetera, et cetera?
He made a point that he wasn't trying to sell this at the session of the conference. He was doing it kind of as a life legacy. He was, approaching retirement, and he's had this idea in his head for a while, so he didn't really discuss numbers. But it kind of sounded like it was going to be more than a couple $1,000.
Gotcha.
So maybe not necessarily something the city can do, but hopefully a regional preservation organization in this area would do something like that, and we can utilize that.
Well, the only question I would ask him, not it's not within my province to direct staff to do anything, but it occurs to me, as thorough as your overview makes this sound, that there would be lots of areas where if you went to a particular region and you looked at his calculations and he's saying, you know, the average hourly rate for a mason or per block is this, or a window, and we might be able to get a sense of what those equivalent labor rates would be here. This could be a real resource for
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Particularly, you know, we have seen more than once, and we'll see again, people coming in for window replacements.
Yeah, absolutely. The two communities, the first one was Hutchinson, Kansas, which I'm not sure
Right.
where that's at. And the other one was Boulder, Colorado, which I think has a lot higher labor rate than
Right.
the Kansas community. So maybe the Boulder one would pertain more to this metro area.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, does anybody have any other thoughts or issues they want to bring before we adjourn? Yes, sir.
Well, two things. The city does, has an employee recognition committee that recognizes either employees or teams every quarter. And then there's also an annual assessment as well. And the group met recently for the second quarter of the year to look at applications. And we do have somebody at the table who was actually Chris Berger. Your, looks like kind of a dirty look there.
Did you know he was going to say that?
No, I didn't. Well, it's high praise coming from not just an employee of the quarter, but an employee of the year, Frank Johnson.
Well,
Congratulations.
that was in past years. So
Well, congratulations.
Wow,
always a
that's
matter of what
wonderful.
comes
Very
next.
good.
So you had
Lots of
the award
champion
given
over
to you already?
It's at a future mayor and city council meeting.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's well deserved.
Thank you.
There's no question
Thank you.
about that.
That's why they sent you to fabulous Iowa.
There you go.
That's right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow.
there are
That's
usually
marvelous.
a number of applicants. It's usually the department director and people that work with the person who will put them in. So it's not a given that any one person would necessarily win that. So there was some competition for this one as well.
No doubt on
Well
that.
earned, well earned.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Thanks.
And thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
The other thing I would say is, we had an open meetings training in the city last September. And this year, the Maryland Planning Commissioners Association is going to hold their meeting in the city as well. And as part of their meeting, Danny Winborn, who's vice chair of the Planning Commission, is on that group, and he kind of made this happen. Just as an FYI, if anybody would want an open meetings training, they're going to have one. And it looks like I'll be participating, and tentatively the county attorney for Frederick County is somebody who's also certified, so we'll probably do that as a team. It looks like that would be Friday, October 26th, tentatively scheduled for the morning, so I'm assuming 10 or 11. Usually it's hour and a half to 2 hour training, and certainly more details will come out, but just to give you a heads up, if you are interested in either attending, and that would be for certification, which is required under state law, that at least some commission member be designated for that. Or if you just want to get the training, certainly you can get the certification. If you want an update of the training or what have you, it's very similar. But just to let you know.
How many hours is that training?
It's usually an hour and a half to 2
Oh,
hours.
okay.
How long is the time period before one recertifies?
Once you're certified, there is no
Gotcha.
recertification
Okay,
requirement.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Nothing else? All right, we're adjourned.